Chairman Dietz.
Yes.
You know, a lot of the presumptions that are made in the wording of this POCD is based on some presumptions of what's going to happen in the future, as you folks have kind of indicated will happen. And Glenn, just as an aside, one of those questions I asked you last time, and I'm referring to booklet number 4, and if you can refer to page number, I believe it's 14. Okay. I asked you the question regarding the employment in Bristol and the increase in employment. But the increase, as I had suggested, seems to indicate that it is mostly in the service sector. And when you talk about employment in the service sector, you're talking about employment that is generally employment that is not as well paid as full-time employment. That's number one. Number two, there's also the ancillary hardships that are incurred when people have multiple part-time jobs. And they're not as well-paying as the conventional, the standard full-time jobs that most of us have grown to recognize as the better jobs. Okay? So what I'm talking about is that there's a presumption made on the maybe taxes generated from that kind of income based upon the ability to procure, let's say, housing. And I'm talking about purchase, not rental. And a whole host of other attributes that come along with full-time employment that do not come with part-time employment. In addition to that, we're also talking about the ability of, or the actual tax base eroding because of the lack of full-time employment in town. And that seems to be a trend that's not only Bristol-wide, but nationwide. So I think that's an important component to throw into the calculations that you guys are making about the possibilities that you're talking about. The second assumption that's being made is that, and I, you know, in deference to this gentleman over here, that there's a distinct possibility that the accomplishments or the purported accomplishments of Renaissance Downtown's will not come to fruition. And I think a lot of the suppositions are based upon the success of that project. I could be wrong, but that's the sense I have here. And I don't know if there has been any kind of contingent thinking in the event that A, that doesn't take place, and B, again, I come back to the increasing, you know, rise of part-time jobs as opposed to the traditional full-time jobs that provided people with the ability to buy housing, which is not present in this current economy. So I think those are two financial and both cultural and social aspects that need to be calculated in all the wording definitions that you guys are using that, you know, frankly, will become codified as time goes by. You guys are the, you know, the spearhead. It's what everybody in town, most people in town trust you to provide for the right kind of wording that will become codified as time goes by. And I think it's important that you guys are aware of the possibilities that, you know, one major component of your plan may not come to fruition. I'm also, and I'm doing a little bit of,
Frank, can I just interrupt you?
Sure.
Did you want to speak tonight or not?
He can take my time if there's not time to.
Okay.
I mean, we have 5 2-minute segments.
Oh, yeah,
There's
yeah.
only 2 of us. Thinking that, gee, that's just 10 minutes. So it's 5 minutes. Which brings to mind another thing. Just as an aside, but it's an important aside because it does play to the concept of Yeah, it sounds like I might be sounding a little hyperbolic, but democracy, okay? Because, in the last POCD meeting that we did have, we had a city employee actually calling the shots on how a meeting that was basically a meeting conducted by people who were duly elected by extension of the mayor was more or less steamrolled into a gag order. So what I'm suggesting is that, we go according to...
Can I ask you a question?
In a minute. I just want to finish my thought on this, and then you can ask me a question, because this may be,
Sure.
this may play a part. If you bear with me, the city charter of the city of Bristol says this about boards and commissions and meetings in general. And I don't know if you're aware of Section 49, but for those of you who are not, all board meetings shall be public, and all meetings of boards or commissions whose duties involve the transaction of public business. And I defy anybody to say that this is not public business. Okay, shall be held at accessible stated public places. Thank you very much. This is. I appreciate that, Commissioner Veets. And all meetings and the minutes thereof shall be open to the public. Any elector, that's Sean and I, and actually all of you too, shall have the right to appear and be heard at any such meeting as to any business proper to come before said Board of Commission. That's again Section 49. And the legislative history about the, engendering of this particular comments are begin in 1931 and are now current. Now, if we are going to conduct business according to Robert's rules, and that's usually the way we do it here, to save time, no member may speak more than 2 times on any one motion on any one day, and each of those speeches are limited to 10 minutes. Okay? This is Robert's rules, and this is how we conduct meetings in a democracy. And this rule may be the best kept secret of parliamentary procedure. The basis of this rule is that in a democratic process, Mr. Weiner, everyone should be able to participate in the debate. If one member dominates the debate, this reduces the right of the other members. I understand that. But in conventions, because of the large number of people in attendance, we're talking about like City Council, Renaissance, that thing. I can understand the time limits. But this is important stuff when we're coming to the wording, which ultimately results in the codification of law. Because of the large number of people in attendance, the time limit is usually reduced to somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. I understand that. But in small groups, and by any stretch of the imagination, no one can call this a middling-sized group or even a large group. In small groups, there is no limit to the number of times the member may speak. Now, I'm not talking about me speaking for a half hour. I get sick and tired of hearing myself after 10 minutes. But I think less than 10 minutes limits the ability of anyone to get a point across that's cogent, that's understandable, that might even be, you might even have a predilection towards once you hear it through. Thank you very much.